Mhm.
Forgot to take that picture down. Hey guys, hopefully everybody can hear us.
Good evening.
As you guys are coming in, make sure to hit the like button. It's free, it helps the channel. We got Michigan and Tennessee in here, Alaska.
Wow. Anybody from overseas? Peru. Been to Chile, not Peru. The company I worked for, Colt. We did business in Chile, and LMT did business in Peru. They're two separate. Obviously, they're opposed against each other. So we had one country, they had the other.
Hello from Shitbags, New York. That's funny.
New York is in really rough shape right now. They graduated up to the most restrictive state in the country for firearms. What Hochul's done there is just ungodly. She's basically making it now, so it's so much of a trouble to get guns and ammunition that it's not even worth it. $10 for a NICS check, and you could pass a federal NICS check, but if New York State doesn't want to give you a license or sell you a gun, they don't have to. They don't need a reason. They're charging you $10 for the background check for weapons, and then if you want to buy a box of ammo, you have to go through another background check, and that's $3. And there's people who go into gun shops in New York who have pistol permits and police officers who get denied background checks, and they have to go through a whole thing for them to be able to buy ammo. It's really bad, especially with considering New York's supposed to be a terrorist threat right now with Hamas. State College, we are. Tennessee. Let's go. Hamas.
Okay, we're gonna get into it now. I haven't done this in a while, so bear with me. If you guys would like to donate tonight during the chat to support the channel or to get priority over all the other questions that are going to be coming in tonight, you can use the super chat function, which is the $sign underneath the chat line. Our preferred method is donor box, which I did plug that link in earlier, and I'll go ahead and pop it in there again. Because donor box only takes about 3% versus Google, they take 30% of your donations. And right now we are fundraising for videos that is coming your way. We have a ton that we have a whole list. So you have a lot of great stuff that's going to be coming to you. But right now, let's see.
Yeah, you guys have really good stuff that's coming.
So Adnan, thank you so much, Adnan. He donated. He said doesn't have any questions for night. He just wanted a chip in support for the channel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dustin. He also said no question tonight. Thank you so much, Dustin. Victor on donor box. Thank you, Victor. He wants to know, what do you think of the LMT 12.5-inch mid-length Spec War upper?
I haven't gotten anything from LMT in probably 4 years. So I know about as much as you do for as far as being on the net and seeing what's out there. Shovel noses have been very popular. It works. It was designed to work with the external piston barrel. It does the same things as the other ones. It's just basically a shovel nose. So I guess if that works for you, fine. I have no need for it. I have CQBs, and they work great for me, especially when I switch out a lot of different kinds of barrels and calibers.
Will a bayonet fit on your Centurion Arms custom rifle with the C4 lock rail?
Um, it would, but the only reason it doesn't is because I have ASR mounts on them, and you can't put bayonet on an ASR mount. But if I had a regular flash hider on there, yes, it would.
And just to remind you guys, because we haven't been on here in a while, we do have codes with Centurion. They're the only firearms manufacturer that we do. They make some amazing products. We have three separate codes for them: 3% off for complete rifles, 5% off uppers and lowers, and then 10% off everything else, including what didn't you just help design a trigger for them or one that you
A hammer,
prefer?
a hammer.
A hammer, that's what it
I
was.
just spoke to Monty a couple days ago. He was going to send me out some of his new products, but didn't have time because of the Black Friday stuff. He's got a brand new 300 blackout 5-inch, 5.5-inch barrel, I believe that it is. Really short handguard. It was designed for a military contract. I was really hoping to have one of those to test, but was going to end up having to wait. But he's got some new products out there. He's doing some work on his bolt carrier. He's doing some new work on a bolt. He's doing some really incredible things.
Yeah, so those SAS codes are still valid and they'll save you some money on the Centurion website because he does some pretty incredible stuff. What do you think of fully ambi lowers for a combat military rifle? Do they add unnecessary complexity or do they provide significant advantages?
Um, Forever, lefties have been basically left out. Maybe it's because they're the minority. All weapons were made for a right-handed person. Um, the ambi bolt catch for a right-handed person is perfect. The ambi magazine release, what I basically would put my hand on the front of the receiver and push in the ambi and remove the magazine right using my right finger. There's other ways that you can actually do it where it's comfortable and where it's quick, but also you're paying attention to your left-handed shooters. So I believe that there is. I think that they should build weapons that are going to be universal because again, you do have left-handed shooters out there, and not having those enemy controls really does make it difficult on them.
Have you tried the IMI 556 77 grain razor core Sierra Match hollow points?
I have many years ago. I used the Black Hills Mark 262. That's the king. Henry from over at Nine Hole Review, he's used it quite a bit. He's had very good luck with it. Um, but a lot of people don't have access to the Mark 262. So that's one of the ones that I use. I think it's the best one in the world.
What is your current preferred AR optic setup? Home defense, SHTF.
I would have to say right now there's a couple. Some of the SIG optics, the red dots for close quarter. You don't need magnification. There's the SIG ones. I think I have a couple of aim points and EOTechs. So those are probably the best ones. The SIG ones are really good. More modernized.
Jay on Donor Box. Thank you, Jay. What do you think of Centurion Arms button barrels? Should I use this or just save up for a CHF?
The reality of it is the cold hammer forge is going to be a lot more durable over the long haul. However, the button is going to be more accurate. You may have to have it on a bench and try to get rid of all the human aspects of it, but you do have slightly more accuracy with that. In fact, the reason why the U.S. government never allowed cold hammer forged barrels on M16 and M4s is because Lauren Brunton at Rock Island Arsenal said that a cold hammer forged barrel can duplicate the sharp leading edge of the rifling, which is key to the accuracy. So that was the reason why they did it. However, for the machine guns, the M240, M249s, they do allow cold hammer forged barrels because they are machine guns. They want more durability. They're interested in precision shots. So it would not be a showstopper for me going with a button cut by no means.
I'm adding the cryptic BCG to my Colt 6920. Do you have an opinion on this BCG?
No, I don't, and I'll tell you why. If you saw the series I did on bulk carriers many years ago, basically it was there was one on enhanced bulk carriers, one on I believe it was carrier finishes, and one on 308s. Cryptic was one of the companies that
Yeah,
I
that's like
contacted.
a three-part series on bulk carriers. And we actually have that on our website on smallarmsolutions.com. It's detailed too. There's a list.
Yeah.
It goes into details. It's kind of like I did a master list that went with those videos that kind of helps.
Cryptic didn't think enough of me to send me anything to take a look at, which is why you don't see it in there. I did reach out to Cryptic and I did try to get some, one or two carriers to show in that. Um, but evidently, since I didn't have, a million subscribers or whatever it was, they didn't really pay attention to me. So I guess I'm a little bit bitter about that, considering how many views those did get. But I really can't give you any kind of a. I'm a Chrome guy myself. I prefer Chrome plated. I probably wouldn't really be interested in anything that Cryptic is doing. I would just be happy to go to a Centurion and buy one of his Chrome plated carriers.
Mark says, I'm the proud owner of a new production Python. How have you been enjoying your new Python? And are you looking forward to reviewing any of the new offerings Colt has announced, like their M5 and the CVX bolt action rifle?
Bolt action rifle, no way. That's not my area. I deal with unloaders. I don't own any bolt actions. Never have. I never would. For as far as the M5, I've been trying to get my hands on one for quite some time, and that had a lot of luck. So that's one of the problems. Was there other ones?
The M5 and the CVX
Okay, the
bolt
Python.
action.
The Python.
Oh yeah, the Python. How do you like your new Python? Your new production Python?
It's very nice. I haven't really shot it that much. The one that I reviewed was a loaner from one of the viewers. So I had shot more out of that than I had my own. I don't really shoot revolvers that often. The Python, to me, the only reason why I own it is because my dad was a big fan of Pythons. And I got his when he passed. I got his nickel plated 6-inch. I was very interested to see what Colt came out with, which is why I got one. And with the exception of the initial problems that they had with them once they unscrewed those up, they did very, very well. The guns were better than the original ones. Better triggers. They were stronger. All the problems that the Python had back in the day, they had corrected on this one. I actually wish they would have used a different name, more like a Python 2 or something, because it's not a Python. It's new, a whole different trigger mechanism. It's not an actual reproduction of it. It's got a lot of changes to it. So Python enhanced. It's should be a little bit more descriptive.
Victor on DonorBox, he just wanted to say thank you for answering his question.
Okay.
No problem, Victor. Hey, Adnan.
Hey, Luna. One thing I do want to say is I got an email from one of the viewers a couple weeks ago, and he asked me if I would do something on one of Colt's engineers, Hank Tetro. I don't really have an ability to do one on him, but he is extremely influential. I'd definitely love to give him a call out. He was responsible for many of the patents going back to the M16A2, going back to the Colt prototype LMGs, the 9mm submachine guns. That was all his work. I interviewed him for Black Rifle 2, and when I went to Colt to give the books, right after the books came out, we had a sort of a party that Colt had, and all these engineers came in, and I gave them books to the guys to tell me, and I signed them. That was the first time Hank had been back there in probably 20 years. And I sat down with Hank and went through the book, and basically he saw his name on so many places in that book. It was almost like I was chronicling his career. And the man was almost in tears about it because he was mentioned so much, his patents, his contributions. Hank was a family man. He had like 6 kids. Just a brilliant, really nice man. So I definitely would want to give him a call out. And you guys with Black Rifle 2 or America's Rifle, you go through all those pages, you will see his name and his patents in there quite a bit.
Will any AR LR 308 nickel boron bolt work in a Diamondback DB10?
Yeah, it's a standard AR-10 bolt carrier.
I'm stuck between buying a Colt 6721 or a Colt LE 6920. I'm prior law enforcement and want a good all-around rifle for home range use. Any help?
I'm more fond of the 6920 myself. I prefer that barrel a little more. It balances the gun a little bit better. It doesn't really do much for heat because it's heavy in the wrong place. I guess I can't give you a reason other than it's just something that I like. That's probably the only reason why I don't have one. I don't have one of those. I'm not fond of those. I do have a couple 6920 variations. I would also be looking for an older one too. If you have the ability to find, a pre-Colt losing their contract, one that says law enforcement carbine on it, those were really the best of the best.
I'm stuck between buying a Colt 6721 or a Colt LE 6920. Did I already read
Yes,
that
that was
one?
my
I'm
mistake.
sorry, I already read that one. I was like getting deja vu. Um, any insight or opinion on the UK adoption of the KAC KS1?
Well, I have to say I was a big fan, a really big fan of the L119A1. Uh, that was an absolute beautiful rifle. I think the main reason why they got rid of it in favor for the Knights because the Knights was ambidextrous. Dymaco Colt Canada still to this day hasn't made an ambidextrous loaded receiver. So that was probably one of the requirements that they had for it. As far as the barrels are concerned, I think the Dymaco barrels are just as good. They're cold hammer forged chrome line, just like the Knights are. Um, the chambers, you get nice gives you an enhanced bolt carrier group, which is better because it does do some things that the original bolt carriers won't. Um, but also you have to look at the price and how astronomical that those guns must have been for them to buy. Where the L129 can do pretty much, I'm sorry, the L119 can do just as much in the real world as that one. But I don't know. I guess I'm not really a Knights fan because again, I look at the cost for what you're getting. There's a lot of guns out there that are comparable and some just as good. And maybe some of them that might even be a little bit better for half the cost. I would take an LMT MRP system or MAR system over a KEC any day. It's you're getting far more for less money than you are with the Knights. But Knights is very boutique, and they do get some prestigious contracts. Um, as I said, it probably wouldn't have been the direction that I would have wanted to go, but what are you gonna do?
Do you own or have any experience with Trijicon Tritium AR-15 iron sights, specifically the Trijicon CP25?
Many years ago, about when I was 18, 19, 20, I had an A2 that I put one on, and I can't say that I liked it too much because it just came with the front sight post. It didn't come with anything in the rear. So when you put your nose up to the charging handle, you sort of had to look to get the lay of where that front sight post was if it was very very dark. So these days I would be much more prone to go with a red dot that lets more light in, and it's something that you can see immediately. Those were just that stuff all predated modern optics. So I think for the most part, it's very much outdated. There's far better options. There's far more efficient options.
To Brad David, who's saying that he couldn't find the armor's manual on Amazon or it was unavailable. I just looked it up. It is there. It is available, and it's actually on sale right now too. So I plugged the link in for you guys if anyone else is interested in trying to find that, but it is on sale. Do you have any plans to do a video on the Colt R633?
Let me take a look at that. The number doesn't sound familiar. What was that? R1?
I'm sorry, I have to move back up to the top because that's where it was.
I know when I see it, I'll know exactly what it is, but for some reason the numbers are escaping me.
R633.
Oh yeah. Um, I don't have access to one of those. I do know where there's one that's a pistol, and a William Michiko's got one. I've done a lot with the standard 10.5 inch 9 millimeters. This one here, that one was for a very short period of time. The barrel was very short on it. You got a lot of muzzle flash. You weren't able to suppress it. It was really limited in what it could do, which is why you never saw it used in great numbers. It was more something you could throw in a briefcase. So unless I was ever able to get one, one from William, I don't ever see me doing one on that. But I did a really thorough long video on the Colt 9 millimeter submachine gun. That was one of my first year were doing this. I did a really good one on that one.
Caracal doesn't seem to make any AB controls for the 816. Should I just use the SIG 516 pattern and the controls?
I have all three. I have the HK416, the SIG 516, and the Caracal. I will take the Caracal over any of the other ones. I don't care about the MB features. Unless you're left-handed, I wouldn't worry about it at all. The rifle is excellent, which you certainly could do with the Caracal. Get yourself a Norgon MB magazine release. You can definitely throw an MB safety in there if you so chose. It doesn't have an MB bolt release.
And guys, before it gets too late into the Q&A, I wanted to let you guys know that we are doing a fundraiser. We have not done a raffle in probably a year now. And it's going to be a super quick one. We're actually going, I just released it last night, and we're going to draw it on Tuesday on a live Q&A. Was that? I think that's December 5th. Tickets, I'm going to put the link down into the chat right now, which tells you all about it, but you're going to get a signed copy of Black Rifle 2, which is the original version. It's out of print and sells for a ridiculous amount of money these days. Then you get a first edition copy of America's Rifle under our publishing company. You're going to get a 20-minute phone call with the man, the myth, the legend here, so that you can ask him whatever you want, whether it's what he likes to order at Whataburger, or used to when he used to eat Whataburger,
I don't even fast food anymore.
or whatever problems that you're having with your guns, or the history of whatever, like just to pick his brain for 20 minutes. I'm also giving you, it's $100 set of Otis cleaning kits, and you are going to get a SAS hoodie, which I will order when I find out the winner's size so that you can have the right size. But that link will show you all the stuff that's included. It's valued at almost $600, and all your support goes to new videos and keeping our channel going, as we have just passed the 100,000 line, which is incredible. So go check that out. We will draw live next Tuesday. I'm not sure if you've already addressed this, but what are your thoughts on the PSA M110 clone in 308?
I actually would love to get my hands on one of those, but it's hard getting things from those guys anymore. PSA, I used to be able to get stuff from, but they're very difficult now. Now, everything that I've seen about it, it looks pretty good. A real M110 is out of most people's range. They're like $10,000. And again, why is that? Because it's got Reed Knight's name on it. There are other guns out there that shoot just as good sub MOA, that are just as well built. They cost a fraction of the cost. PSA has really stepped up a lot of things with quality and with what they offer. As an alternative to something like a real M110, it's awesome. You look at something sort of in the middle. You look at like a Lewis machine and tool, which is another awesome one. But everything that I've seen on it, they did a really good job on it. Everybody who I've seen videos on it, very, very accurate. So it sounds like they do a pretty damn good job.
I want to change my muzzle devices on my SIG Sauer Rattler and all three of my Radians to the new SIG Clutch lock device. Any recommendations for securing in a real Avid vise to prevent barrel damage?
Rock set. Basically, when you put rock set on those threads and you torque them down hand tight. You don't over torque. You just hand tight, because you can actually disrupt and damage your accuracy if you over torque. That's what you have to be careful about damaging, is if you over torquing those.
What is your opinion on POF's roller cam pin? I recall the early AR-10 featured something similar, but was cut for cost. R.I.P. Frank. Absolutely.
Well,
Frank Osama, right?
Yep. I am actually very fond of them for the AR-10s, and I also put them in my external piston guns. I think that's a very good enhancement, but I'm not willing to remove a carrier key to put a new carrier key on there to put on a regular AR-15 carrier. I'm not willing to do that. When you can place them in a 308 or an external piston without having any modifications to the carrier, they're a major benefit. Anybody who has an external piston gun, I think that would be an excellent upgrade. However, me and Frank got into a little heated discussion one time because he has a patent on that, and he really shouldn't have, because there was existing art that A&I did with the original AR-10, and they had a roller cam. It was just a little bit different, but it was still the same. So what he had was not new to him. was not new. He made a couple modifications to it, but he did not create the roller cam.
How does the PRI flip up front sight as seen on the Mark 12 Mod O install? Aside from the price, is this ideal for installing on a barrel drilled for a front sight base?
Well, you're not drilling and pinning, that front sight base. So you could pull off of a standard front sight base, throw that on, make sure you get it lined up properly, and you just torque it down. Um, so no, that's not a drill and pin type one. None of the ones that the original Mark 12 Mod O or Mod 1 where they drilled and pinned. Mine in the clear does that now because as a former SEAL, he saw the benefit of that being drilled and pinned, so it never moves forward. Because you always risk that with these ones that don't have dog noses in them. They're just held on with set screws. They move forward. I'm not fond of those.
Did they change the gas port size for the M16A1 to work better with ball powder, or did they just rely on the new buffer?
No. One of the first things they had to do was to make the gun conducive to ball powder. They had to shrink down the gas port size, less gas, and thus less gas. Thus means less pressure, which means slower cyclic rate. The bolt carrier bounce, the buffer was for bolt carrier bounce. It was not for use with ball powder chemically. Because of the higher cyclic rates, you would have the carrier bounce. The buffer stopped that. It stopped the bounce. The gas port, that slowed it down in the opening stroke, which allowed your pressures to drop more before extraction. So you didn't have the failures to extract like you did with the IMR rifles using ball powder.
What are your thoughts on the mid-length gas systems, and are there any notable issues mixing buffer and gas systems?
The mid-length gas system is better in every which way. It has nothing but benefits over the carbine system. Look at Carl Lewis. Any of his 14-inch and above, they all use mid-length now. He got rid of carbine length. He only uses carbine length on his 10.5-inch barrels. Other than that, he's pretty much done with them. It's nothing but an enhancement. So that's really all I can say. If you look at what Mine LeClaire has done with his barrels, he has some of the best barrels right now for a combat rifle with the Colt hammer forged.
With the Centurion.
Yep, Colt hammer forged mid length, a heavy barrel. That is probably the best combinations that you can get in a 14.5-inch barrel or even a 16-inch barrel. So yeah, absolutely.
Carrie has entered the chat. Hey, Carrie.
Hello.
Will most nickel boron AR LR 308 bolt and carriers? Wait, did we do that one in a Diamondback DB10?
No, you didn't know.
Okay. Will they work in a Diamondback DB10?
Yes.
Did you want to say something?
No, we already answered that one.
Okay. Which country that you worked in did you enjoy the most?
Wow.
I could probably answer this for him. Let me answer first, and then you can answer. Let me see if I got it right. He's probably going to say Jordan, and it's probably just because he really likes hookah. And
Actually, I have two that really stand out in my career. One was the Israelis. I've never seen a military as efficient, that fought as a family, that were as effective. That is the only military in the world that's been able to integrate women into combat roles with absolutely no difficulty whatsoever. The only ones that have been able to do it. The whole attitude that the Israelis have towards our soldiers was really, really incredible. The second one, you're probably going to be really shocked. Jamaican Defense Force.
Really?
Yes.
I would have never thought that.
The Jamaican Defense Force guys were pretty damn incredible. When they were together, they were together. If their phones rang, wives, girlfriends, or whatever, they didn't answer it. When these guys were together as in a unit, nothing got in their way. The training was incredible. The attitude was incredible. It always stood out with me. I've actually worked with a lot of them. You're looking at Spetsnaz. You're looking at work with Snow Leopards from China. I've worked with the guys over in Austria. I've worked with a lot of different ones. There's a lot that I've been impressed with. Some of the discipline I've seen in these other militaries is incredible. The way they follow orders. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of really incredible militaries out there.
Don't let that story fool you. Let me tell you the real story when he was in Jamaica. I was pregnant, I think, with our third kid, and I called him up because stomach flu had rotated through the house with the two older kids. And then plus I'm 5 months pregnant with the third, and we're all vomiting and sick. And this man is like, I'm sorry, it's open bar right now. And the Jamaicans are like playing their like drums
No,
next to the
there's more to
pool.
it. There's more to it.
Yeah, he was working hard, guys. That's
We
why
were.
it was that rum. That's what he liked in
We
Jamaica.
got done with the demos at the Jamaican Prison Bureau and the Jamaican Police, and well, we had the military too. We had to do all three of those separate because those three entities don't get along. I was with my buddy Mike, and he says, "You know what? Why don't we get these guys together? We'll have like a party." So Mike calls my boss back here in the
Oh
states.
my God, this was like work. You had to do
It
it.
was.
Yeah.
So he calls the boss back at work and says, "I'm going to be spending like $2,000 on your credit card, to get
On hookers and blow.
no, to have the band, the food, the open bar." So these were all guys from the Jamaican Defense Force.
So it was a contractual obligation.
Yeah, no, it was a. That's one of the ways that you do get to know your troops.
Oh
You
yeah, I'm
get to
sure.
get to know them on a personal level, not just
Sure.
a professional level.
Absolutely.
And we did get a lot of stuff done. A lot of talking, had some
I'm
fun.
sure y'all did.
I learned about rum that had been watered down. One fact, one of the Jamaican Defense Force guys says I'm going to show you how this works. He takes his hand, cups it like this. He pours the Appleton rum. He goes, "If this has not been contaminated with water, this will flame right up.
Oh, I remember you
If
saying
it
that.
doesn't, then you know that they're watering it down." So he lights it, and it's flame. It was
So you're doing
pure stuff.
experiments too. So this is a
Not
science
experiments.
thing
He
too.
was teaching me.
This is important. Yeah, this is
But
yeah.
no, it was actually work. It was with the Jamaican
Sure.
Defense Force guys. This was it was a work party.
The more he keeps saying that, the more you're like
Oh, we did that all over the world.
undercutting the truth.
We always had parties.
Manuel on Donor Box, thank you. Have you ever had a chance to meet J. David Truby? He's seen a couple articles of his under Small Arms Review, and he enjoys his stuff.
No, I have to say, when I left Small Arms Review, it was really going downhill really quickly. Once they got rid of their one editor, it really got bad. When Dan Shea's wife and daughter took it over, instead of it becoming a military weapons magazine, it was a female defense magazine. You would see all this kind of stuff. They changed the focus of it. And the authors that they were getting were not known authors, because known authors didn't want to work for Small Arms Review because Dan paid them the firearms industry minimum wage, literally minimum wage. He didn't like paying his people. So the guys who were good, they say, "We're not going to do this. We're worth a lot more than $400 an article. Everybody else is giving well over 1,000." So they would go. So the people hit their
Especially when you're investing your own money into
absolutely.
like ammo and the time to like research and like it's really not. There's no money. It's peanuts.
Absolutely. So I was very disheartened by the direction and the new authors they were bringing in who were not quality. I had a blowout with Dan one time. There was a guy who did an article, and he was comparing internal to external pistons. So he had each one. He fired 3 magazines out of the M4, and the barrel tore up like a pig's tail and it stopped. So he declared the external piston as the winner, which is complete bullshit because a true mil-spec M4, the barrel blows before the gas tube does. So this guy was putting out false news, if you want to say that. That showed the lack of professionalism that these people were having, these new guys he was bringing in. And I thought that was extremely misleading, and it wasn't true. Because if you were to take an external piston and an internal piston, they're going to fail at the exact same time. And it's not the operating system that's going to fail. It's going to be the barrel. It's either going to overheat or it's going to blow. It has nothing to do with the operating system. So, yeah, it had just gone downhill so bad that, I hadn't been watching it. I did hear, however, there's no longer in print magazines. It's all online now. Dan stopped doing a lot of the stuff that he was originally doing on Small Arms Review. He used to put up all kinds of military reports and things like that. He stopped doing all that. I don't know whether he just got out of it. Basically, all Dan wanted to do was, he had Small Arms Defense Journal, and he took all the money from what he wasn't paying the authors, and he was traipsing around the world going to trade shows, giving away magazines. So it was very disheartening, the way that it went down.
What do you think of a 14.5-inch barrel AR-10 and 6.5 Creedmoor from KAC and LMT? They have released small batches of barrels and rifles.
You would not want to go below 20 inches with a 6.5 Creedmoor. You would not be burning out powder, and you wouldn't be getting the benefits of what the 6.5 Creedmoor would do. 10-inch, that is so stupid. You are literally going to get a freaking fireball out, like, unbelievable. You're not going to have the stability. You're not going to have the range. That is some of the most ridiculous things that I've heard. I'm sure they're doing it because people are asking them. They're probably well aware of the problems with it. But Carl's the kind of a guy who he he knows what's right, he knows what's wrong, but he also knows that you listen to the customer, even if it's not something he agrees with. For instance, the doing like a forward assist on his 308, which he's pretty much doing now because he kept getting shit from everybody about it. He does listen to his customers. You can build it and it will function. Are you going to get what why you would want that cartridge? Are you going to get that performance out of it? Absolutely not. I would never touch a 10-inch or 14.5-inch in 6.5 Creedmoor. It would be a minimum of 20 inches.
Do you think the HK21 is a contender to be better than the Stoner?
Probably is better. The Stoner, what many people don't know, suffered a lot of mechanical problems with the SEALs in Vietnam. It was not a really reliable rifle. It was known to malfunction. The HK21 works. It always has. Also, if you understand that too, you also understand why it was in production for a very, very short period of time, and nobody ever brought it back until Robinson Armament did their version of it, which was highly modified. So no, the Stoner 63 was a really very interesting rifle because it was something that he did after he left Armalite. It was far from a success story. His AR-16 and AR-18 were far more of a success story than the Stoner 63 was.
Have you done a review on the Daniel Defense DD5 308 rifle?
I'm trying to remember which one that was. It's been a long time. It's got to be at least 3 or 4 years since I got anything from Daniel Defense to do. It was very, very difficult to do them. So I'm not sure if that's the specific model that I had. They were very nice rifles. Absolutely. I just felt they were extremely overpriced for what they were. There's other ones out there that had every benefit that those did that were less expensive and just as accurate. Some of these are the manufacturers that you do spend a lot for the name that's on the side rather than what they're capable of.
Have you seen the new Knights Armament 3.2 bolt? If so, what are your thoughts?
I just see some of the changes that they've made on it. Again, you're getting so far into the proprietary realm that if something was to break, it's going to cost you your firstborn to get the parts if you can get them from Knights. Um, it certainly does have some benefits. There's other ones I probably will look at more again because of some of the parts, one of the parts commonality. So if you think about it, you got proprietary firing pin, proprietary cam pin, proprietary extractor system, proprietary ejector system, and a proprietary bolt that requires a proprietary barrel extension. That's a lot of proprietary. So that's the sort of thing that would keep me away from it. And of course, the cost is just brutal.
LMT Mars H or Robinson Armament XCRM?
I will go with the LMT because the LMT is a combat-proven gun that's seen action all over the world. The Robinson is at best a commercial gun. It's an excellent gun. Don't get me wrong, but it's at best a commercial gun because it hasn't seen the military experience. I have any reason to believe that it wouldn't. The only thing that me and Alex ever disagreed on was, I said you need to drill and pin your front sight bases, and he disagreed with that, which is the first thing if he ever had to get a military contract, they would make him do. But he really hasn't gone after military contracts. He's been more going after commercial.
What are your thoughts on FN AR-15s?
It's an interesting thought because people seem to think that because FN makes the contract rifles for the U.S. government, that their civilian rifles are the same thing. That's the furthest from the truth. The TDP that FN has for the M16A2 and M16A2 and M4s, they are not allowed to use that information for commercial sales. So they have to keep their production separate. So what you're getting from FN as a commercial rifle is not the same as their military rifle. So if you're looking at saying, I'm getting a mil-spec rifle, no, you're not. Those are not the same parts that they're using in their M16A4. It's not like Colt. A lot of the part, well, not as much with Colt anymore, but back when Colt was doing full contracts, with the exception of the longer barrel, the fire control parts, and the lower receiver to take those fire control parts. The rest of those parts are the exact same ones that came out of the U.S. government bins. Those are all military parts. So when you bought a law enforcement carbine, it was the same parts as the government guns. That's not the case with the FN. You are not, even their military classics. Those are still not. If you notice, they don't have any of the military markings. There's no FN markings on the bolt, barrel, the carrier. You don't see any of those government marks. You don't see the forging codes on the side. You don't see any of that. Where with the Colt, even still to this day, you still do.
Can I get a recommendation on brands of steel polymer AK-47 mags?
Some of the ones that I tend to like quite a bit are the Croatian ones that sort of lock back on the last shot, so you're not dry firing it. The Magpul Gen 3 P mags are excellent. Those are polymer. Quite frankly, most of those military grade magazines are just as good. They work. So I guess it's not really you can recommend one over the other because pretty much they all work. The only problem you ever run into is there's no one TDP for these magazines. Sometimes you'll get you rock the magazine into the rifle. The tab that hits the magazine release is too long, and it actually won't snap into the rifle because of the manufacturing of it. So that's one thing you have to watch out for.
We didn't do this one, did we?
Yes.
The HK21?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, sometimes I'm pulling questions from the very top, and Any interest in the Desert Tech MDRX?
I actually tried getting one for a few years. They would not even answer my calls or return them. So that's the only reason you haven't seen that, because I couldn't get my hands on one.
Have you had a chance to shoot any PSA AAC 5.56 ammo in the various weights?
No, I primarily used Black Hills and SIG and Remington.
Why did the industry move away from slip-over suppressors, as saving length no longer a concern?
Most of the time when you're using those suppressors, you want a sure way that it's not going to come loose. I think the current ways it's done is much better with the locking rings and such. So I tend to agree with what they're doing now.
Can you give advice on what parts you would need for an early Mark 18 MODO?
Sure. Basically, you want to get an LMT 10.5-inch barrel with the front sight base on it. You want to get a Knight's Armament flash suppressor. You want to get a Knight's RASP, M4 RAS. You want to get an LMT backup sight. You want to get a M68 reflex sight with a name of the mount. Why is that going to escape me now? I'm sure it'll come to me probably in the middle of the night. But there's a certain one. And then for as far as the lower is concerned, you have a specific kind of a hook style receiver extension end plate that you would use. You would have an LMT SOP mod stock on it. You would have an Ambi. You wouldn't have Ambi safety. You wouldn't have Ambi magazine release either. It would be a standard A1 type lower receiver. So I'll probably go with the Brownells A1 lower receiver if you could find one, or one of the, I don't know, Nodex Buds is even making them any longer. And then send it over to John Brace, the Brace man, and have him do the U.S. Navy Crane Mark 18 logo.
I'm going to pull a question from Patreon. If you're not on our Patreon, you should be. Small Arm Solutions. It's from Tim. He said he wants to know, of all the 1990 early 2000 M4 attachments, accessories, optics that have now been taken off these carbines and been tossed into the dustbin, which one would you like to see make a return to common use? And which one would you like to remain gone forever?
Most of them are actually still in production. You look at the Trijicon ACOG, the Trijicon Reflex, the M68 Reflex, they've been improved. Military optics are not necessarily military grade. There's not such thing really as a military grade. They're commercial off the shelf. And a lot of them were bought by individual units, so they could pretty much get whatever they wanted. One of the ones is the 10 power scope that went on the Mark 12s. That's one that people really ask for, but they don't make anymore because there's a big retro thing. Um, most of them are still in production.
Tad on Donor Box. Thank you, Tad.
Wilcox, that's it. Sorry. Yeah, Wilcox mount for the M68 reflex sight.
You helped him out. Tad on Donor Box. Thank you, Tad. He has a two-part question. He wants to know about any future crime series videos coming. I am working on it with him right now. We are in talks about where to go next. As he said to me, and I quote, my FFL, I have to check if he has any shit guns to review. You know, the crime series has always been my passion and like what I push for. If you guys are new to the channel. So sometimes it can be difficult getting him to do one, but I thought the last two that he did like knocked it out of the freaking park. The fake Colt one, oh, I loved that. The one on the Glock, that was amazing. I do have a playlist under our channel that is on the crime series. If you guys are new to the channel or the crime series, there are some great ones. There are the JFK, was it 3-part, 5-part series? I forgot.
That one still to this day is it bothers me that it hasn't gotten out further. When you
Which
Google
one?
it, the JFK, that should be much larger than it is right now. When I look at what some of these videos that are coming out that are complete bullshit, it's all fake, it's all not right. In the way my series is, it doesn't come up in Google, and it's sad because there's nothing else that's been done like it. Which
Well,
actually shows
our
it.
regulars and old school people will also know that it took me forever to get him to do that JFK series. And it was probably one of the most amazing things we've ever done on the channel. And
So answer questions on that.
he dove into that in a way I have never seen him dive into something. And he ended up loving it and loving like finding out everything that he did.
Well,
And
it's also funny when YouTube decides they want to red flag you for the gore.
well, I mean, there are some
pictures.
very
I
graphic.
guess I would have thought assassination would have taken care of that.
I mean,
There
are some very graphic videos.
There are, but it's all relevant.
And if you are new to his background, he was a forensic scientist for 10 years too. So like he sees, gore in a different way than probably maybe even the average person does because, they're used to dealing with it.
I look at it like this. I testify in court. Everybody who's in jury sees that exact same stuff. They see all the autopsy pictures. They see the crime scene photos. I guess to me, when you're talking about something like this, you're talking about magic bullet theory. You're talking about the headshot. Well, you're obviously going to have to see autopsy photographs, and you're going to have to go over that video from the Zapruder film that shows the head going back and to the left to explain what's going on.
Yeah, but it's literally just warning people that they're about to see some graphic images. And I think that's what it comes down to.
There were some people who said they wish they would have been warned, but I guess. I guess she's probably right. Says I'm used to seeing between being a forensic scientist and being a defense contractor for 10 years, or 10 or 15 years. I guess I've seen quite a bit, and it doesn't faze me.
I mean, they're graphic. I mean, they're graphic. I mean, not that I would look away from it, but no, they're definitely graphic, and yeah. But it's an amazing series, crime series, and the JFK series that we did underneath that as a special day. It really was phenomenal because, like you said, there's a lot of people out there that make videos that don't have the background that Chris does, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do the crime series because I wanted to tap into his 10 years in forensics and not just 10 years as a forensic scientist, but also he worked at the crime lab and along with Monty, or who literally was one of the
Monty Lutz. He was one of the ones on the 1976 reexamination of the JFK and Martin Luther King. He actually was one of the ones who came up and basically told them what the truth was about the fact that it wasn't a magic bullet because Kennedy and Connolly were not sitting like this. Kennedy was up like this. So when you align it, it's not a magic bullet at all. The trajectory lines right up. That was what the Warren Commission got wrong. Monty was one of the ones who was on that.
So I can remember like 20 years ago talking to him and sitting at SHOT Show and having these conversations about it and Chris picking his brain. So it just made sense to do, something on that, especially with his background.
I have an idea for a crime
He did
series.
It kicking and screaming all the way, but you know,
I do have an idea for a crime series. It's on the SKS because that was another one that we saw a lot in the crime labs in both Milwaukee and Monroe County for a rifle. I did talk to my FFL, and he didn't have any more shit guns.
see,
So,
can we do another crime series, Chris? Okay, I have to see if the FFL has any shit guns that we can. Okay, thanks.
well, we didn't see a lot of the really good stuff. I've covered a majority of the stuff that we saw already. Did we see some?
Yeah, but you
occasionally?
say that stuff and then you pull out a whole video on fake Colts, and it's like, that's phenomenal. That's phenomenal. Like, I loved
Yeah,
that.
that wasn't crime lab stuff. That was Colt stuff. So I guess it took me a while to put the two and two together to do that one.
Yeah, but it's good. It falls under it. So Tad, that was a long response to that one question that I thought was going to be quick. His other question was, did Chris ever have to go to Africa while at Colt?
No, the closest I got to Africa was Egypt. Egypt is technically on the continent of Africa, but it's called Middle East.
Is it?
Yeah.
I didn't know.
Yeah, Egypt's technically on Africa. For the
Well,
most
I know
part,
it's in Africa, but I know it was called the Middle East.
yeah, most people say they're Arabs. The Egyptians are considered Arabs.
That's
It's
weird.
not
How does
like
that work out?
Kenyans and Ugandans and things like
I'm
that.
learning things too, guys.
Yeah, it's we never at Colt did much in Africa at all. I don't ever remember. Same thing with LMT. A lot of those guns are a lot of AKs and stuff down there. Not a lot of Western companies for the most part. Countries like South Africa make their own guns, basically copies of Gallos and things like that. But none of the companies I work with really did anything in Africa.
Can you put on another video on 300 Blackout AR-15?
Yes, and I am. I'm going to be you're going to be getting a video on the LMT 10.5 inch 300 Blackout. So yes, we were going to have one on the Centurion also, but he couldn't get it to me in time. We did have videos on the 300 Blackout, but when they took our channel down, she got most everything. But there was a few that they got to before she could get to them, and the 300 Blackouts, there's a couple of them were on there. So I did have some, but they were ones that were taken down. But you will be getting one, absolutely. I was doing the notes for it tonight.
So for the crime series, somebody says Fast and Furious Scandal crime series would be interesting. Chris has not seen the Fast and Furious. I can already tell you that right now.
I'm more, as I said, working in the lab and seeing what's in there. That's a little bit out of my realm.
No, but I see. Because I thought even like one on like John Wick, like
I don't ever watch these movies.
the John Wick. Yeah, I just recently watched all the John Wicks, and I thought it was amazing. And also Keanu Reeves is a huge gun advocate, and
he trains on real ranges.
Yes, and his stuff in John Wick is phenomenal. Like, yeah, he's really good with guns, and that would be really cool. Somebody said do the Draco.
If I can find one. That's the hard part is finding some of these other ones.
And then somebody else said another one.
I mean, I can think of some, but again, I can get my AMT backups for one of them. Some little Retta 21As were some of them. I can think of a couple more, but again, I just don't have access to them.
Kyle on Donor Box, thank you, Kyle. Looking at getting back into the 20-inch A1 or A2 builds. So far, I'm looking at the Colt Upper from Brownells or maybe the Arrow 20-inch. Any other suggestions on brands to look for? And he said, P.S. Sorry to hear about Wyndham closing.
Well, for the most part, my A1s that I have, my two, the one is Nodex Spud upper and lower. The rest of them are all Colt A1 parts. I did the lower was I did my main Colt. If you look at the video on the reissue of the Colt, you'll see there's three. You'll see there's the Brownells, there's the Colt, and then there's mine. And you'll see mine basically, with the exception of the upper and lower receiver, the rest of the parts are original. My XM16E1, again, Brownells XM16, I'm sorry, it was a Nodex Spud upper and lower. The rest of the parts are original 1965 XM16E1 parts. So, if you can find the Colt parts, it's pretty awesome. If you can still find the barrels, it's just amazing how, 20 years ago, you couldn't give this stuff away, and now the stuff's commanding incredible prices.
What do you think will become of HK 433 in the German contract?
Oh, it's done. The 433 was only to compete for the Bundeswehr. Initially, the Bundeswehr adopted the Hanau, and then HK got into them and sued them. Oddly enough, what HK sued them for and got lost the contract, Hanau violated a patent on the rear of the receiver extension on the HK 416. You had 4 or 5 holes that were used to inject water if it was submersed. That's how they got rid of Hanau. And then they adopted the HK 416. So the only purpose for the 433 was to compete in that. And HK came out and said, if we don't use it for the Bundeswehr, we're not doing anything with it. So, and I haven't heard of them doing anything ever since. I don't expect to see it.
Tad said his nomination for a crime video is the Miami-Dade 1986 or North Hollywood 1997 to get Chris's point of view.
North, I would definitely have to do research into both of these. I'm familiar with them. JFK thing I was close to because of
No, you
working
weren't.
no, I knew it. I knew it because of working with Monty. So I was closer to it than something like this.
And on my side of things, he said, I don't know enough about it to talk about it or do a video on it. And then it turns into a 25-part series. And he's obsessed. And it literally, he dives into a rabbit hole of 6 months of research.
The other interesting thing about the two that you mentioned too was there's no controversy there. There's no conspiracy there. It's clear cut what happened.
I know, but
it's,
if they want your point of view, they
Yeah.
want you to talk about it. They want you to break it down in a technical nerd way because people love to delve into that stuff. I mean, I'm not, for you guys that are new, I'm not really into guns. I mean, I just run the business side of things. So when he can pull my attention and get me into it, crime series definitely pulls me in. That JFK, he pulled me in a way I never would have even thought he could have pulled me in. But yeah, the fake Colts, amazing.
And that actually came to me much later because again, that was working at Colt. I was asked by the Colombian government to go down there to look at those guns. So that wasn't a crime lab thing. So that's probably why it took me a little longer to put that one together. It didn't happen until I was going through some of my old notes. When I saw it, it's like, oh wait a minute.
Yeah.
This is very interesting.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole thing with the crime series is, yeah, it's great to be able to pull stuff from, forensic science days, but also to be able to loosely fit some of this other stuff underneath it with these like historical crimes.
I do have one I have thought about doing, but too many of you guys are going to have a problem with it. 1911s. 1911s that go off when you drop them.
You're going to make a lot of people angry.
We had a couple of those in the crime lab where the guns were dropped and they went off. But I'm afraid to do something like that all you guys who are 1911 fans are going to come out of the woodwork and basically
those
attack
are
me.
always the best ones, though. It lights people up.
No, that'll light you up.
Gets people's blood pressure going.
Yeah, that it does.
I've never understood how mixing gas buffer systems worked, giving the different buffer weights and spring rates. How is the carbine system developed?
What you have to understand is none of this happened with military guns. Military guns, you have a specific kind of ammunition, and your gas system, your buffer is all around one cartridge. This shit didn't happen until the commercial rifles and they started opening up gas ports because you would get this crap Wolf ammunition that wasn't even SAMI spec. It was underpowered and it was short stroke. And people were into this were saying, well, if it doesn't work with Wolf, it doesn't work, which is not true. At Colt, if you were to say your gun didn't work, you would send it to us. We would take it back. We put M855 in it. And if it worked, it works. It's going back to you. These guns aren't designed for that. So the stuff that you're talking about with the buffers, that is something that's done to slow down carriers of overgas guns. It's also ammunition specific on whether it's going to operate properly or not. The dual ejectors, you don't see them as much in the 5.56. There's a couple of them that you do. It certainly is a benefit. It just sort of weakens the bolt breech the face a little bit. The gas ports, obviously, and then of course the gas tube lengths. All this stuff came in with the commercial guns, not the military guns.
And 1911s are meant to be dropped at barbecues. KAK Industries has some new products: a 2-stage buffer, dual ejector bolt, downward sand cutter BCG. Pretty interesting.
I'm not familiar with the the buffer. I am familiar with the carrier, and I have to say I'm not too fond of it. I don't like the fact that you're dumping gas on live cartridges like that. I don't see there's a benefit to it. The dual ejectors, that bulk carrier grip would do really good in a short barrel, like a 10.5 inch, or say a overgassed or gas port erosion 14.5 inch, where it's going too fast. And the injector's having a hard time keeping up with it. There's some very very small occasions where that's an option. Sand cutting is cool, but I don't like the way that it vents. It needs to vent out into the atmosphere, not into the receiver. You don't need to, the guy basically said that when he was asked, one of his customers said, isn't this making the gun dirty? Well, he said, well, it doesn't make it any dirtier than shooting a gun suppressed. Well, you're not shooting the gun suppressed. So why do you want the same kind of filth that goes along with a suppressor going into your gun that's not suppressed? It doesn't make any sense to me. But again, that's just me.
What is your recommendation for torque spec for flash hider on a barrel? I want it secure but not too tight, like you said earlier.
It gets interesting. It depends on what you're doing. For instance, the M16A1, it had a crush washer. So basically, when that crush washer was crushed, that was it. The A2 used a peel washer or I'm sorry, the A1 did not use it. It used a spring washer. The A2 used either a crush washer or a peel washer because you had to get it and then you had to orient it in the right direction. My recommendation is always pretty much hand tight. The only time you really ever have to tighten those suckers down is when you have to index them, like with an A2 compensator. Hand tight, not with a torque wrench. There is a torque specification. It's in my armor's manual. I don't remember what it is, but most of the ones in the armor's manual, it'll give you an initial torque spec, and then what you'll do is you'll just adjust it from there to align. But if you look at ones like the ASR mounts and the Vortex Phantom, you hand tight those on, and then basically they self tighten, and you're also using rock set on them so they don't come loose.
Has LMT stopped making the enhanced bolt for commercial sales?
No, when we interviewed Carl a couple of years ago, we were talking. The problem is the material, getting the material for the bolts, and then the cost of manufacturing, because those materials are significantly harder on the machines and the tools to make. So
those we did those with NRA. That was spring of this last year, right? Around what May-ish of 2022.
2021.
No. I think it's 2022. I think it was last year, the NRA show.
Okay. Yeah.
Here in Houston.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was around like April or May. And we did interviews with Carl Lewis, and we did with Monty from Centurion. Those are great interviews. So if you guys want to go watch those, but they were talking about, and everyone had the same thing where it was in a post-COVID world trying to get materials to make these things. And, I mean, it's been
even in the non-COVID, that material was still hard to find, and it's hard to manufacture.
You're talking a year and a half later. We don't know where they're at now with
he
that.
Knows he's got massive orders for him. He stopped taking orders for him. So
I mean, that's all we ever hear is about the enhanced bolt and why
he can sell them, but he's not building them. He's working on his military contracts. He's got his machines, Estonia and New Zealand, and he hasn't gotten the material. So it's not discontinued. It's still on his website. It's just pretty much marked unavailable. When they come, you're very lucky to be able to find them.
Tad said, I should have clarified in asking, how does a forensic person like Chris document something like North Hollywood? Because they had lots of footage of it happening.
Well, the hard part is getting access to the photographs, the evidence. They also, with JFK, I had access to the forensic documents. I had access to the photographs of the matches on the bullets in the cartridge case. That stuff's not available online or anywhere for those instances. So to be able to say, how many rounds came out of this gun, how many rounds came out of that gun, it's a lot more difficult because that information isn't around. So doing a forensic study, basically what you'd be doing with something like that is you just be telling what happened and giving some kind of example of how it happened. But it's not like this where you're going to say this bullet came out of this barrel, this cartridge case came out of this rifle, and this was responsible for killing this person and that one. You don't have access to information like that. So that's sort of what makes those a little bit different. versus the JFK. I had access to all that information. I had access to that stuff from when I was, working in the crime lab with Bonnie. He had a lot of documents that showed, I actually saw the bullets that were fired out of that Carcano. That he had the actual Carcano bullets that were fired out of Oswald's rifle. So it was just I was closer to it because of where I was at. These are that much more harder because I don't have access to the same information.
Is 6 millimeter arc a good replacement for the 5.56? Some special operation units use it, but is that just for designated marksmen?
No, it actually works as an assault rifle as well as a DMR. Um, there are a lot of people that are very, very fond of it. One of the things that I've really been looking to see is how the barrels are affected with it being a higher velocity cartridge. And the other thing I'm more interested in knowing too is how it works on full auto. This was the problem with the 6.5 Grendel versus the 6.8 SPC. The 6.8 SPC worked beautifully on full auto. It was a good assault rifle cartridge. We had a hard time at one of the companies that I worked with. We had a customer from Scandinavia who've always used 6 millimeter. They want to see if we could make an M16 M4 type in Grendel, a combat rifle. When we tried doing that, even with the proper magazines, we couldn't get it to work reliably on full auto. So there are some cartridge cases that are not conducive to full auto fire. And given the shape of the 6 millimeter arc, that's a question I have.
You mentioned the Israelis earlier. How about delving into the raid on Entebbe?
Uh, that still, to this day, is the most iconic rescue operation ever put down. Nobody has ever accomplished it. If you look at a lot of operations that we tried to do in Afghanistan and Iraq, we failed miserably. We lost a lot of people. We had helicopters shot down. The raid on Entebbe was absolutely incredible. This is also what made people take Israel seriously. That they were able to pull off a rescue mission on another continent. And oh yeah, that was absolutely incredible. There's actually a movie on that that
Or is it supposed
documents
to be
that
in
really well.
Tebe?
Huh?
It's in Tebe,
Entebbe.
right?
No, it's Entebbe. It's Entebbe, Uganda. There's an excellent movie on that, but still to this day, no one's ever been able to do such a successful hostage rescue operation that the Israelis did. Still to this day.
Have you reviewed the ARs of Black Rain Ordnance, and how do you feel about their products?
I did for Small Arms Review. They were pretty damn nice. After that, when we started this channel, I did reach out to them, and I actually at SHOT Show in 2018. Last time I was there was 2018 at SHOT Show. I went to their booth to try to see if I could get someone I could get T&Es from, and they never returned any emails or phone calls. I have tried. The article I did on them for Small Arms Review was very good. The equipment was very good.
Did you ever interview Roger Wang from Forward Controls Design?
Yeah, that's one of the ones we interviewed at.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah.
Yep.
And his interview was incredible. He's the one who was in Imaginarium,
Yes,
right?
he was.
Yeah, no, I was blown away by his those interviews were phenomenal. Again, I say like I'm not into guns horribly. I just run the business and I'm good at that side.
Well, it's
But
cool when
those
it's cool when it's not
interviews,
all about guns. You get stuff like
yes,
that. That's
their background is so impressive. Like Monty from Centurion being a Navy SEAL, which is already impressive, but when you literally listen to him in this interview talk about how I was he like 15 or 16 years old, his dad gives him a book on SEALs, and that's why he decides to become a Navy SEAL. The man didn't even know how to swim.
until a few weeks before he went to Butts.
He literally taught himself how to
Yeah.
swim. And so, yeah, that kind of stuff is amazing. And Roger Wang was an Imaginarium for years at Disney. And so, yeah, and so he took that kind of creative outlet brain that he has
It
and
sort of
took it to
sucked.
firearms. It's amazing.
It really sort of sucked because we only had 3 days and we just had 3 nights to do them. So I had to pick, who it was. There
Yeah.
were some other people that I would have loved to have done. There just wasn't time to do. Chris Royce was another one that was
That we
absolutely
did.
incredible.
Yeah. Chris Royce, we did. But I mean, of the ones that we did, they were, yeah. To the guy who's saying we should have other super chat options, I just gave you the link. Our preferred method is donor box because of Google taking 30%. So that is our other avenue for donating that's not through Google. So
There's actually a couple here that I want to answer. I don't know
Okay,
if you're gonna get to
yeah.
them or not.
No, sure,
The
go
first
ahead.
one was from Sean White about Brownells used to make for Uncle Sam. Yes, they did. They manufactured the the tan follower magazines that there was a lot of problems with. And the one below that was what happened to OK Industries. OK Industries got out of the magazine market for commercial sales. They are still manufacturing for for some of the manufacturers. However, I'm not sure if OK has done any of the EPM magazines. You're also seeing a lot of PMags being used now as well. Um, but OK, it was pretty much them just getting rid of the commercial market.
Was there anything else you
No,
wanted
those
to
are the two.
pull?
Those are
Okay.
the two.
What do you think about dual ejectors on an AR-15 bolt?
Not nearly as critical as they are in a 308. Um, the benefit of it is short barrels, again, 10.5-inch barrels, or guns that have severe gas port erosion where you're speeding things up and sometimes one ejector can't keep up. That was the whole reason why they came out for the 308. Carl Lewis was the first one to do it. He did that when he did a 13-inch barrel for a 308. That rate of fire, the opening stroke, the cartridge case, the weight and everything with the spring, it didn't have enough spring tension to knock the cartridge out all the time. So by adding the two, that solved the problem. Of course, that threw your brass into a different zip code, but it worked. The same thing will happen with AR-15, but there's only certain circumstances that are pretty rare where it will be beneficial.
There's some conversation about Brownells in here.
Mhm.
A great way to support your 2A channels is by going to their websites, like for instance ours, smallarmsolutions.com. And there are Brownell ad links on there. And if you just click on that and it goes straight to Brownells, whatever you order, we get 3% commission off of that. If you want your own dedicated link to a product, just email me at hbartacci@smallarmsolutions.com and I will create one for you and send it over to you because it's very hard to make money on a 2A channel. YouTube doesn't pay you anything. They don't allow you to link to anything that sells guns or
That was the
ammunition.
biggest problem. After this came down,
Yeah.
we used to put those links, and I used to say, this is the product, this is the Brownells
Yeah.
code. I used to be able to do that, to send people right to it. We can't do that no more.
That's why, we have this raffle to do because you have to make money for the channel to keep it going because, when you go from, making, some good money in commissions every month to making $50 a month, you gotta, improvise and do something else. Is Chris excited about the FN 510 at all?
No, I'm not excited. Interested, but I won't say excited.
Okay, guys. Well, we're going to shut it down for tonight. Thank you so much. What?
Before we do that, I'd like to give these guys some ideas of what's coming.
Okay, go ahead.
Let me pull it up.
He has a list. Now, it's his list, and I'm going to add some things to that list.
I hope not. I really hope not. I was able to get my hands on a Beretta PMX, their new 9mm submachine gun pistol, and I'll be getting that, I think, on Friday. I'm going to be doing a video on that and a Beretta PMX versus the CZ Scorpion. We also have the new Zastava ZPAT 92, which is more of a crank-off type variation. Black Rifle Arms 308. Another one is the BML LMG upper receiver, which is really going to be cool because it's a recreation of the Colt LMG upper receiver. The LWRC internal piston DI. ACR versus SCAR 16. The LMT 300 Blackout. History of the M16A4 and the C7A1, the flat top upper receivers for both. Radiant Arms Model 1. One you guys are going to love. The M1718 versus the M9. A lineage of the HK 416 to 516 to Caracal 816 A2. This is going to be a cool one. The Sig Spear 308. My student John, his father got one for Father's Day, I believe that it was, and they said they would let me borrow it. The last video that we posted was on the NSGW program, and we're now going to have a rifle to go over it with. An Otis cleaning video, and I'm going to be doing one of the shorts because I guess this is something I get so sick of hearing about the forward assist being used for quiet loading. We're going to delve into that. So we're going to show how that's a
That's not going to be a short.
That's gonna be short.
Whenever this man says it's going to be short, that means it's going to be the longest video in the history
Oh,
of the
no.
world.
No,
He's
we're
going
gonna
to
do
do
short ones.
he's going to do a 45-minute
Oh, no.
video.
Oh no. All we're gonna do is we're gonna try loading it quietly, and you're gonna actually hear the audible that no, the actual noise that the extractor makes when it steps over the claw is very large. The amount of pressure that it takes to get that extractor claw over the rim is very strong. Is very strong. There's nothing quiet about it. So those are the ones that we're going to be doing.
So please go to smallarmsolutions.com, buy your raffle tickets. Next Tuesday, we will be live again at 8:30, and we will be drawing our winner for that. So thank you guys so much for joining us tonight. Thank you to everybody for donating, the ones who did, and thank you for just coming and hanging out with us tonight. We appreciate you guys. You have a lot of good content and videos coming your way.
Have a good night.